Anyway, hey, good to have you here. I can hear now. Hey, we got it fixed. All right. I am the tech man today. So praise God. Good to have you here. Busy ministry here running today. I've been up since before 5 getting things done. I got a wedding I got to leave for here in just a little bit. And you probably noticed our first Friday webinar is not on the first Friday. This is actually the last Friday. And then the next Friday, we have a huge work group. We're putting a whole new roof on our entire building. And I thought, well, we'll just move it around a little bit. And a couple of weeks after that, on the 19th, we are doing a webinar, a really focused one on some essential things for reaching young families, kind of reformatted some of our things. I think you're really going to like it. And that's on the 19th. And again, we've actually had a lot more people say, can you do more stuff? And so we're trying to push things out a little bit more. We want to try to stick with the first Friday webinars, but they're kind of we're kind of missing a couple Fridays here, but we'll get you posted. So anyway, welcome aboard. Good to have you from Atlanta, Georgia. I can hear you now. Got a lot of folks jumping on board. So hey, let's just jump ahead on a couple things. All right. Here's what you can expect. We're going to talk about who should be here. I'm going to give you a little bit of my story about how we came up with these day camps. We're going to talk about the why, the what, and the how. And then we're going to have a Q&A time at the end. And so save your questions. Actually, now you can write your questions in the question box anytime about this particular style of ministry that we do. And I will stop at the Q&A time and answer those. You'll see a big thing that looks like this, Q&A, and that means take time to write some things in. If you have any kind of question now, and I'm going to have to go kind of on and off with the glasses here to be able to read all this. I've got 3 or 4 screens here. I'm trying to, again, pray for my sidekick, Tanem. You know him. Usually with us. He is actually, he had part of his foot amputated and he is in surgery right now. They're doing a skin graft. I appreciate if you'd keep him in your prayers, and that would be a great blessing. So, all right, number one thing, who should be here? Who's this for? Well, this is the day camps are for people who are trying to figure out, and like I say, I'm not sure how you got here, but I know why you're here, because you want to reach people. You want to touch out and reach out and touch the families of people in your community and make a difference in their life. And again, this is for local church people. We do a lot of different things. This is not necessarily for radio ministries or deaf ministries or, Spanish ministries, although Spanish, everything here, Spanish, and, we got Gomez on here, so he'd probably be able to do that. But you should be here if you're really trying to figure it out. And of course, this year, a lot of our camps have been canceled because of the whole COVID-19 thing. And so there's some real challenges. So if you're trying to figure out a way to impact your community, to really make a difference and to reach a lot of new families, and that's what this is so good for. If you want to really reach a lot of new families and build relationships with them and then bring them into your local church and start to win them to Christ and discipleize, I'm not sure if that's the word, disciple them, then you're in the right place. So anyway, good to have you. That's who's here. Hey, my story is this, and some of you know, my name is Mike Holmes. I'm the pastor here at this church in Sinclair, a beautiful old historic building called the Parco Inn, and presently up in the second floor, way in the back where it's nice and quiet. We've built a studio back in there. We are a rural community, a little bit smaller than a lot of communities that you folks are in. So you can see our population there. In fact, here is a picture from the air of our entire town right there. That's it. So 100 miles to the next kind of anything except for our county seat, which is about 5 miles away. So we have about another 8,000 people over there that we can work with. And when we came to this area to start the church, and it's a long, cool story, but I knew that I would be involved in camping ministries. I had done a lot of camping ministries. I had been to taking our kids to the big name camps where you have big, famous speakers, and they're there all week long, and they got great counseling, and they have lots of games and mega type of things, and sometimes mega expense as far as trying to get to the thing too. all of that, I knew I wanted, that type of results for my kids. I wanted them to hear good things, but I also knew that I was going to be limited because we're just a church plant. I mean, we just didn't have anybody. I mean, we started with zero, and we're about 12 years in, and so we just didn't have anyone to do anything, and the cost was really prohibitive. The other thing that really was a problem for us, and I don't know about you where you're at, but the good Bible camps that had some really good preachers and really well run, they're all really far away for us. I mean, you got to go about 5 hours to, get to one of those things. And we were like, oh, what should we do? And I had a background in running smaller camps as well. I had, this is us way back when digital photography was just starting out. In fact, this picture here, I remember we bought a digital camera with like 3 megapixels or 4 megapixels or something, and ran this camp and took this picture, and we were so excited about it. But I had a background in this kind of camp of working with kids and having a little bit more relational type stuff. And I thought maybe we could kind of blend this and come up with something that it wasn't so difficult to run a camp, and it wasn't going to be super expensive, and we could, just spend time with people. And my home church had started a day camp ministry on their property, which we use the word day camp, and that really covers a lot of different things. But the day camp ministry that they started was much more of like a sports camp where the kids would come to the church facility for about 3 hours, play some games, they did some coaching on like soccer skills, and then they sent the kids home. And they did that for like 4 days in a row on one particular week. And my idea was let's grab a group of kids and let's, take them out and do something with them, but let's make it really much longer. Let's make it something that's going to be more detailed, where we're going to go from here to here to here to here and spend a longer time. And I'll get into the length there in just a little bit. For those of you that are just joining, and I appreciate you, like I say, I'm kind of running this totally solo here today, and tomorrow is a total solo webinar as well. So bear with me if something goes wrong. Hopefully we'll get her done. My computer, my little baby here is getting kind of old. I don't know how old your computer is, but boy, when they start getting, mine's, what was it, like a 2013 model, which is pretty old for a computer. And I've been doing some funny things. If everything dies, I'll send you an email and let you know what to do. We'll connect with you the next day. Probably, because tomorrow's webinar is at 10 o'clock Mountain Time, and so I just kind of want to bring that up to you. So anyway, I knew that I wanted to do something, and it's like, why should we run a day camp, and what is special about doing the day camp the way that we want to do it? And I'll give you a definition of day camp here in just a little bit, but it's a single day activity that we do. It's not multiple days throughout the week. We take one group of kids one day and go to certain places and come back. But I want to go through a couple of different things, and I want to show you some pictures. And these are all, like I say, we've been doing these for years. They've been so successful. They've been so helpful. And I think one of the first things that really was important to me as a church planter, and if you are in a situation where you're trying to reach out to new people, and by virtue of you're here, you're probably a member of Young Families on Reaching Young Families on Facebook group, or you're probably a member of perhaps our academy, and many of you members of our academy here. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to bring in new people. And so what we did is we created this idea of having a day camp be an acquisition event. What I mean by acquisition event is that when you go visit somebody, like if you're going door to door visitation, you always kind of take time to say hello and say something nice about their garden or their car or something like that. we thought, let's try to do something with kids this way. Let's just try to have an acquisition events where we spend some time getting to know these kids before, you know, we get to any kind of deeper gospel and that kind of stuff, where at least you get to know their names and at least you get to spend a little bit of time with them. And that's the idea behind an acquisition event, is that it's really designed not like a revival or not like a big Bible study or a prophecy conference or, you know, even a training time, but it would be designed to get to know somebody. And folks, when you start to get to know people, when you start to get to know their names and you know what they're all about, it makes a total difference in their responsiveness to you. There's a saying out there, and I didn't originate this, but I really like it. You know, when you know somebody's name, they tend to like you. But when you know somebody's story, then they tend to love you. In other words, you've taken time to hear about them. And this is so important with kids, finding out if they have brothers and sisters, finding out how they're doing in school, finding out, you know, if they've lived there, you know, how long, whatever, all of that stuff. The more we start to do that, the more we start to grab hold of them and they start to love on us, and they become willing, not only willing, but they are the ones that just say, yeah, hey, when's the next thing you're doing? Let me know the next time your doors are open. Let me know about those Sunday services you do. I want to be there. So it's the idea is why we do it. We do a day camp is not like in the traditional summer camp, much more of a discipleship thing. This is much more an evangelistic thing. Open the door and acquire new people, you know, getting new faces in the door here. So it's this idea of let's make church young again. Let's bring in some families. Let's do that. Let me show you a picture here and tell you a story. This lady here, her name's Angelique. She's in the background. That's Jake, her son. And they came to one of our early day camps several years ago. And Angelique said she'd heard, and the boy was coming. We were dropping him off, and you can see what we're doing. We're doing a little rock climbing. We're rappelling. You can see how steep it is. They're actually rappelling like almost flat ground there. It's because she's standing right there. But it was fun for the kids to kind of put the helmet on and do all the stuff and some of that. So Angelique came and she said, I'd like to enroll Jake. I said, okay. And we gave her the paperwork, started to sign up go through all the paperwork and how we do that stuff. And I'll talk about that tomorrow. And she said, I'd like to come along if there's room. And I said, well, we are full right now. We have more bodies than we have seats. And she goes, well, I've got a Suburban I could drive. And it's like, Suburban? Yeah, we put a lot of kids in that. So Angelique drove the Suburban, and her kids in there and a couple of the neighborhood kids rode along with her. And we acquired that on that day, we acquired that family. They've hardly missed anything. They've had conversion experiences. The Lord has touched their hearts. They become born again. It's just an awesome thing. And it's just so exciting. And they, to this day, they still are, you know, Jake's in our teen group now. Angelique comes to all our services. It's just a great thing. In fact, we do attendance a little while back. We're going through attendance, and Angelique and Jake were like the most faithful people. They had not missed anything for a really long time. And it all started with a day camp. It was a time where you just acquire people and you get new people. This picture here is a bunch of them lined up outside our building. This is the wing of our children's ministry. And our goal, we were just taking a picture here, but our goal here is to get all those people from the outside of the building to the inside of the building. And when you do these kind of programs, when you run a day camp and you get to know them, you get to love them, then you don't have to run a bus ministry and go beat the bushes to get them to come every week. They're just there. They show up. Someone asked me, I came from a strong, like a bus ministry background, where we did a lot of bus ministry, and just really, you know, went out, invited kids, brought them in. When we started the church, we decided we weren't going to do that. We decided if the parents can get them to soccer practice because the kids want to go, they'll get them there. And sure enough, it works. The kids and the parents, man, they want to be at church. I mean, it's like, hey, we're not going to miss church. We'll go to the lake afterwards. We'll do this, we'll do that. And we have a great flourishing crowd now of young families. Just shortly before all the COVID thing hit, we had like 18 babies in the nursery and all those parents and stuff. It was awesome. So we want to get kids into the church. One last picture here on acquiring here. This was a picture we took, an impromptu picture. This is the inside of our building, kind of our, during Christmas, one of the Christmas services, we had everyone line up out there and took a picture. And I started going through and looking for people in here that had not been involved in a day camp. And almost every single person, we're going to talk to you how to get adults, teenagers. We're going to talk to you about how to get everybody involved in these camps. It is not just something for the kids. So anyway, that is one of the first things, is this idea of an acquisition event. So let me, let's see, can you send the link for the second part for tomorrow? I believe it's going to come to you automatically, Mike. I see that your question there. Tomorrow's webinar, I believe, is going to be the exact same number. You should have it right there on the bottom of your screen. It says 919 something. That ID number will get you on there. Should do it, and there should be a mailing that comes out. So, all right. So acquisition events. That's why do we do them? We do them to acquire, to bring in more people. We also, and these are totally different than, like, in other words, typical summer camp ministry. You don't do it to acquire people. You already have them and you're taking them to disciple. So this is kind of some rethinking here. The second thing that we do is we do it to provide service opportunities. And this is where we believe, just a very core part of our ministry, and I'll go through this in a little bit, is this idea of service. We want there to be a spiritual outlet for people where they can do things. So we have taken our kids out and done all sorts of different things. We have taken the day camps. In other words, we're going to go have fun, but first we're going to stop and we're going to pick up trash, at the local, truck stop, or we go to the park, and we've done that. Here's a picture of our little town of Sinclair. Years ago, probably 80 years ago, somebody piled all these rocks out on the hill and made a big S out of them. And you could hardly see it. They hadn't been repainted for years. So all those kids in that picture, that's us. And we took our buckets of paint and actually had the community donate the paint. And we went up there and painted the entire S. It was really a great event. We've had opportunity for our teenagers then to sit down with other kids and witness or do some type of work, that type of thing. Or like in this, the bonding, the idea of where our teenagers are there to bond and to really help out. This is such an important thing that is not found in a traditional camp, but it is found in the camps that you and I need to have here, these day camps, where we can put in a service opportunity and we can help our junior higher kids and high school kids become workers. Let me tell you just a little bit about how that works. This was one of our single ladies that came along, and she's now best friends with that lady or the girl that's sitting on her shoulders there. What we do here is we aim our camps towards elementary age kids. So basically kindergarten through 5th or 6th grade, depending on where it is in your community. That's who we aim the invitation part for, and we focus on that. And let me just kind of back up just a little bit and say, you probably won't build a great flourishing teenage ministry if you're a church planter. It's probably been done somewhere, but the idea of, if you want to reach young families, you reach young children. So you reach out to elementary age kids. And that has been our programmatic focus here at our church from the beginning, to reach the moms and dads of elementary age kids. All our programs, all our everything aims that direction. Now we get all sorts of, people from every age from that, but that's where we have focused on. So that has been our focus. So when we do a day camp, we aim towards just elementary age kids that can sign up for it. Then we have our middle school and high school kids become the workers. They become the people that help us put it on. And so for a middle school kid or a high school kid, you have the leverage of being able to say, I want you to understand that you're going on this not as just to have a lot of fun, but as a service opportunity. And you're going to do whatever I tell you to do. And you'll notice in some of the other pictures here, we have these vests that we put on the kids, kind of those construction bright green and orange vests. We put those on the kids, and if they get to wear a vest, that means that they are my servant for the day. I mean, if we need a cooler carried here, we need some chairs carried over there, we need, somebody to pick up all the, stuff and get ready to pack up because we're leaving, the teenagers do it, and they gladly do it. In fact, I'll try to point out a picture. We have one boy in several pictures here in a moment. He was a fifth grader, and fifth graders can't wear the vest. They have to be sixth graders that's where our school breaks, at middle school. And this kid came up to me on the side, and he offered me $5. He says, I'll give you $5 if you let me wear a vest. In other words, he was saying, I will pay you to be in the servant area, to be one of those grown-ups and be ones that can serve. Now, folks, that is a great thing when our kids want to serve. And so that's what we do with the rest of the kids. We have our high school and middle school kids become the servants. And then we also have another element here that helps us a lot. And you'll see that in just a second. So acquisition is totally different than a standard camp. Okay, most camps don't run that way. We wanted to bring in kids. We wanted to have service be one of the bedrocks of our church and make sure it absolutely was there and the most prominent thing that we could have. And then the last one here is parental involvement. And almost every major camp that you go to, if your parents say, hey, can I come along and do everything the kids do? They would say, no, this is for kids, not parents. But we really believe, and if we're going to reach young families, we're going to reach them together. We're going to reach parents and kids and help them become what they need to be, the moms and dads. And so the idea of providing and allowing parents to be there. I'll give you one of the secrets tomorrow that has to do with how we get a lot of the parents there. But just here's a picture of a guy, and this is his daughter, and he spent the whole day with his daughter. And I believe this particular family was kind of in a split up type of thing, and he wasn't necessarily there all the time, but he came and spent a whole day with his daughter, and we allowed that to happen. Excuse me, just a second, I get a drink. Getting a little dry. We also have parents and grandparents that would spend time with their kids. Imagine looking off this cliff with your kid or your grandparent. Getting to do some opportunity, and we let them come and we get them involved. Here's a grandparent that is actually walking this log. We put a log across the stream. We'll talk about some of the secrets that we have and some of the service things. We put a log across the stream, had a lot of fun, and the grandma got to walk across there, and all the kids got to watch, grandma do this thing with them, and they had this experience together. And it was just so cool, just to have, these kids here spend some time together. This particular photo is actually very touching. This young girl who's got her head on her dad's knee, and he came along. It was not too long after this photo was taken that the Lord called this man home. He had a major problem with like diabetes and heart attack kind of stuff, and God took him home. But we have all sorts of photos of him and his daughter and things that they did together. His wife's actually in some of the other pictures that we have on this particular day. And we went out to a ranch and went horseback riding, and it was just such a cool experience. But we want parents to get involved. This particular guy in this picture, he told me he was rode in my van almost every day camp for about 5 years. He had just a difficult family. I mean, they didn't spend time together, and he was determined that he was going to spend time with his son. And he worked a full-time job at a bank. He was a technology guy at a bank, but he got off every day camp we had. For several years, and he's moved out of the area now, but for several years, Jay and the boy, their name is Austin, were in my van and drove with me, and he helped me get the kids in and out of the vans and all that kind of stuff. I spent so much time with him, but he spent so much time with his son, and it was just special to see him take time to do that. And a day camp makes that happen. And if we're going to reach young families, we've got to provide some of these things that is super important to them. It was so important for him. He would ask me in January, February, what the dates were so he could schedule those days off way ahead of time. Here's another one. This is a banker. A loan officer, and I mean, he was an executive and, you know, wore a tie every day and that type of thing. It's like, when are the day camps? I want to spend time with my daughters. And he had 2 daughters that came to nearly every one of our day camps. And so these 3 things that we have here, the acquisition events and the service opportunities and this parental involvement, is just so important. And they're what make a day camp so much different. I want to kind of give you sort of the why there. We're going to get into the what and kind of the how, which is really the lengthy stuff that we'll do on Saturday. We'll go through all of that. But why, you got to know why you're doing it. And if you don't know why you're running something, why are we running a VBS? Why are we running a summer ministry? Why are we running a junior church? Why are we doing all these things? And I know there's some overarching large answers to some of that, whether therefore you eat or drink, do all to the glory of God. I'm aware of that. But the idea of, we are here to reach new families. And for us, the acquisition event is like this. In other words, when the day camp is over, day camp week, and we do a couple of them, I'll explain that tomorrow. But when the week is over, the win for us is the next Sunday. Okay, the very next Sunday, to have some of those moms and dads and those brand new families come to church together. That's why we're doing it. I mean, we want to acquire new families, and we can end up running things for our own kids, I think way too much. And I'm here to reach new families. I'm here to make an impact in the entire community. And so we want to do that. This other thing here about serving. And when we started our church, we knew that service was going to be a backbone of the church. And we put it in our core values. We put it there that we would be, service would not just be like a noun, like a thing you go to. Oh, let's go to the worship service. Okay. But we wanted to do, we want the verb side of it. We want to be serving. We want that to happen. And so that was so important. So we built that into this. So every day camp we do, we stop and we do different things. In fact, let me tell you a quick story. And in just a second, we're going to get to the Q&A. So if you got any questions, go ahead and start writing them in and typing them out, and we'll answer the questions here in just a moment. We did we started a day camp, big long thing. And one of the things when you're doing a day camp that's really important is to make sure that if you have that many kids, you've got a dozen kids, or even 60 kids, however we've run them big and small, that you have to stop where there's bathrooms, where there's outhouses. So we, some type of a bathroom break. So I'd found a little reservoir outside of town, and it had some bathrooms there. And I thought, we're going to pull in there and use those bathrooms, and that would be good. And they're just like say old campground style outhouses. They weren't nothing fancy. And we got there to the place where the day camp was, and we had already picked up a bunch of trash at a truck stop. I think it was a truck stop we did. And then we got out to this place, and it was right around 4th of July. And so somebody had shot all these fireworks off right there in the kind of a boat ramp area where the bathrooms were. And there was the cartridges or the leftover parts of a fireworks, the little tube things. They were laying all over the place. And our kids hopped out of the van, and you know what they did? They just simply, without even being asked, they started picking up everything. And there's also happened to be all around there all sorts of beer bottles. So they picked up all the trash, they picked up all the beer bottles. We had trash cans, we had it all picked up, and then we, getting ready to let them start using the bathrooms. I said, hey kids, gather around for a second. I said, what do you think happened here? And they said, well, man, somebody, shot their fireworks off, and they didn't even care about picking up their trash. I said, why do you think they didn't care? And someone said, because they were drinking beer. And it became this excellent illustration, these teachable moments, which we think are so important on a day camp, where the kids could see that alcohol takes away your discernment. And I mean, I could have stood up there and preached a message, and we're like total abstinence people on alcohol, just to let you know. I work with too much of the results of it to have any respect for any kind of, social drinking or whatever. But we just don't think it should be any alcohol at all. And I could preach a message on alcohol and I could give you all the verses and blah, blah, blah. But these kids came to this conclusion. Look, they were drinking and they made a mess, and they didn't pay attention to what they were doing because they were drinking. It was an excellent opportunity for a teachable moment as well as a service opportunity. And never forget that time. So go ahead and write some questions in there if you got them. Parental involvement, how we get parents involved. You might have some questions on some of that. And let's take a moment here for a little Q&A. So if you've got some questions, you can do that. Let me take just a quick drink here, and then we'll try to get to a couple questions if you got some, and I'll tell you some more stories. I mean, we got a lot of great stuff here. So go ahead and write those down. Oh, it's actually getting warm out here where we are living. I think we're probably supposed to get up to close to 80 degrees here pretty soon, which is that's hot for us where we live. We had I had to day before yesterday, I think 24 degrees in the morning, and so we're still chilly. I still have a big pile of snow across my street from my melted last Tuesday. Kind of finished that thing. So. All right, let's see. Well, someone asked my time zone. Michael, we are in the mountain time zone is where we are. I think you are in central or perhaps eastern where you live there. So lots of times we get questions about the funding of the day camp and how it all works here, and how do you pay for all that kind of stuff. And a couple of different things we'll cover a little bit more detail tomorrow, but we do some budgeting. Obviously, we have some budgets there, and then we also found that if you charge money for a day camp, just a little bit, doesn't have to be much, that you tend to get a higher show up ratio. You tend to get people kind of like, okay, I will be there because I paid for it. And that's a really important thing. So we have them sign up ahead of time. On registration cards, we have a little specific thing that we do, and it has parental permission on it. We so have them sign up ahead of time, and we start advertising about 3 weeks ahead of time. We advertise in our church, and then we also put some posters up around town to kind of get some of the new kids. But most of the parents, most of them come because they came with a friend. In other words, a friend invited them. So. All right. Let's see a couple of things. How often are your day camps held? Good question. We were doing them because of just staff and trying to not to overload, because we also had vacation Bible school. We did have some traditional camp things we do. We have county fairs and all the different things that we have in the summer. We were doing one just once a month is how we were doing it in the warm months. So you could even start in May, but once school's out, June, July, August here in our hemisphere is kind of how that works. So we were doing it. We ended up having too many kids, and I for some of you it's kind of hard to imagine this, but it's like, it is great to have that problem, too many kids. Wouldn't you love to? I mean, I know churches, I talk churches all the time, it's like they got 2 kids in the entire church. I mean, wouldn't it be great to have like too many kids that you couldn't handle? But we ended up with 60 or 70, and the logistics was getting very difficult. Even when you take a bathroom break, it was just like 45 minutes by the time you get all that done. So we changed things around and we split it in half, and now we do one on Tuesday and we do one on Thursday. So we have a day off in between, and again, these are lengthy events. We'll talk about that in a second. So we go from basically 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock, a long event. On the Tuesday, then we do again on Thursday, then we wait about 3 weeks and do it again. We wait about 3 weeks and do it again because we have some other events and stuff in there. So good question, good questions. Okay, let's see how many days. Let me click on here because I have to see if I can read the whole thing. I am, again, a little tech challenged here. See if we can open. Okay. How many days or how often do you do? Okay, that's a similar question. Yeah, how often do you do those things? We schedule them. Do we do them? So we do them year round. We have found, and we have done some in the fall, and we've done a couple things in the winter. What we have found is that we make this a summer. Now is what we do. This is a summer only event, because a lot of, we have a heavier Sunday school schedule during the school year, but when the kids are out, we make it the big thing. And so we already have people that are asking about these, and when they are, and the dates. By the way, we have the dates published in like January. So we already have those things set, and everybody knows when those things are going to be. But we don't do them year round. We do them just in the summer and make them a highly focused type of thing. You can do them if you want. You could do a Saturday event, probably have to make it a little bit shorter during the school year. And we have done some of those, and they have gone well, but we just have some other things that we do during the rest of the year. So, all right, some good questions. If you got some more questions, go ahead and put those things in there. Someone asked about transportation, how we do this on transportation. We'll give you a little bit more detail tomorrow, but we have a couple church vans that we have. We've used those, but we've also have solicited, now that we have parents so much involved, we have parents that will drive like a Suburban or a larger SUV, and we have the parents drive a bunch of the kids, and we reserve the right to kind of put the kids in the whichever vehicle we want. Now this year with the COVID thing, we're going to talk about that tomorrow, but with the because we don't want to mix kids as much. But what we normally do is our teenagers who we have that are going to be with us and helping, we know who they are ahead of time. They've signed up ahead of time. They are in a vehicle, and we split all the teenagers up so that they're not all just sitting there yakking or playing on their phones or whatever. And they are in a car with a group of younger kids, and we've talked to the teenagers ahead of time. You're going to be a mentor. You're going to spend time with them. You're going to tell them about all the different things that we're doing, and we kind of get them orientated a little bit. So the teenagers ride in different vehicles, and then we mix and match people into different vehicles. So we will have, if we know we have a strong Christian person riding or driving, we will have like maybe an unsaved mom or a single mom that's really new to the faith, ride with her. And those turn out to be these excellent times. And then they have 4 or 5 kids in the back, and we try to put kids that would all kind of be the same age, so they kind of talk, along with one teenager in there who is, their job is kind of to, get them going. And they sing camp songs and have all sorts of stuff along that line. So, all right, let's see, one more question here, and then we're going to get to this question right here. What is a day camp, and how exactly it works? And I know maybe I should have had that one first, but I wanted to give you the why, kind of get that down. So how would you suggest a small ministry with very little funding get started? Okay, we will talk about that in details a little bit more tomorrow, but the best way to get it started, and this was from Marilyn, the best way to get it started is to grab your calendar, pick a day, and put it on there. Pick a Saturday and just go, hey, we're going to do something. We'll get into what you can do here in a moment. But pick a day and just do it and get the thing going. And have the kids that you do know that you have, tell them to invite some friends and say that we are going to go on this field trip type ministry. In fact, let me just jump to the next slide here, because we're going to get the definition here. What is a day camp? And here's the definition. It's an all day, or at least 6 hours. We recommend at least you go 6 hours. An all day, multi-aged, field trip style, outreach oriented local church acquisition event. I know that's a mouthful. Let me go through a little bit of it. The all day is important. We'll touch on that a little bit more tomorrow too. It's one of the secrets, is that you run these things longer than shorter, okay? And it is a multi-age. So you're going to have kids from kindergarten. It's not just like a third graders and fourth graders event. It's a kindergarten through high school. Basically, you're going to have all those ages of kids plus parents in there, because remember, we're trying to reach young families. So it's a powerful thing here. You have them all together, and some people go, "Oh, it never works." It's like, no, it works beautifully. Okay, you got to have some people assigned to do some different things, but it's multi-age with a focus on the elementary age. In other words, it's focused on elementary, but you're going to get the high school kids serving and the parents there too. And it is a field trip style. So it is not like taking all the kids to Six Flags over Texas or wherever you're from, one of those giant amusement parks. It is not going to a baseball game or something. It is a field trip style event where you're going to take kids out and they're going to discover things. They're going to have adventure. They're going to see something they've never known. We've taken kids to museums. We've taken kids to fish hatcheries. We've taken kids out to a pond and thrown rocks in the pond. We've taken them to a railroad trestle, and we're underneath the railroad trestle when the train went over and could feel the whole power of all that. We've gone to historical markers. I'll show you a picture later of we found historically, it's kind of funny. We got a lot of history out here, just like you do where you live. We're kind of on the Oregon and Overland Trail, and the first railroad tracks came through. So we found this place, this old part of the old Overland Trail, and it had an old outhouse in it. And so we didn't technically verify this, but we said we're going to take everyone to our county, Carbon County's oldest active outhouse. And they are all like excited. They're going to see the oldest outhouse in the county. Okay, but it was a field trip. I mean, it was just absolutely a blast. So we go to a lot of different places along that line. So as far as like getting started, you just put it on the calendar there, and you set up a field trip, and you pick 2 or 3 things to go to, and boom, 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 boom. You work your way through all of those things, and by the time you get home, everybody's tired and worn out, but you're a family, and you've taken a zillion pictures, and you're able to share those with the parents, and some great stuff. So anyway, that was the definition there. Let me give you some of the benefits of a day camp. Number one is it builds unity, and it's this idea of all of us working together. Excuse me again there. The idea of all of us as a church working together. Our church gets so excited for the day camps because the older folks help out by sometimes, donating and making it so the younger kids can go, because sometimes we charge a little bit and some of them need some scholarships. Sometimes we have some older couples, when we conclude the day camp, we come and have a kind of a hot dog on a fire type meal. We'll talk about that in detail. One of the secrets, I mean, there's a top secret, is cooking a hot dog on a stick. But we'll have some older couples be there, and they will have like a fire going already, and they'll help us kind of get things going. We have all the parents come. It just is a huge event, and our church knows about it. Everybody is signing up ahead of time. We have a big banner we stick up that talks about, the day camp sign up is open, and some of that. It creates teen leaders, and this is where I mentioned the idea of having your teenagers doing things rather than just being entertained and having their own little lesson. They actually have an output, and we believe spiritual output is so important. And getting their teenagers to actually, be at something. And one of the other things I do with the teens, and you can do this if you want, I recommend it. So we're out in kind of the boonies out here, kind of a long ways away, but I'd recommend that you go out the day before or a couple days before and drive the route where you're going to take the kids on the day camp. So, we're going to go over to this little town, then we're going to drive up into the mountains, then we're going to see this lake, and then we're going to stop at that trestle, and then we're going to, stop at a ranch and see some cows, and, just whatever. There's all sorts of things you can do. And I'd love to help you personally. And if you're in the academy, if you're one of our members, all this will be posted for you to go through. But if you're in the academy, you know you can contact me and how to do that. We can talk about some of those details there. But this idea of going ahead of time and checking out the whole route. So what I do lots of times, I grab my teenagers, a handful of teenagers, say, hey, I'm going tomorrow. I'm going to go drive the day camp route. I want to make sure all the roads are open. I want to make sure the bathrooms, every once in a while, like outhouses are locked. I want to make sure everything's working, and how long it takes to get from this place to that place. And I take those teenagers with me, and I say, listen, when we get here, I'm going to have you guys, carry some logs. So there's a little stream here. Let's see if we can find a log and carry it across that stream and set that up and make a thing for the kids to walk across. The teens are like, yeah, I can't wait. I mean, they get so excited because they get to serve and they get to do stuff. And believe me, teenagers want to grow up. I mean, they do. They want to grow up and be something. They want to have a desire accomplished and to be sweet to their soul. That's something that's going to be good for them. But you need a venue where they can do that, and the day camps do that. So I take them out a couple days ahead of time, go through the whole route, and then the day of the day camp, they get to wear the special vest, and they are just there. That's what they get to do. I mean, they're excited about it. So another benefit is it builds strong homes. And this is the idea of what you'll get to see is on Sunday, you'll have a mom and dad come to church with their kids, and they all went on the day camp. Now, we have many times where parents are like, hey, can we go on the day camp? We have a 2-year-old. Can we take the 2-year-old on the day camp? And it's like, absolutely. We'll just let you drive, and you can have the car seat in your car and take care of your little kid that way. They obviously won't be able to go throw rocks in the river or hike or whatever, but you can come as a family and do this. And you would not believe how many families are just itching for an opportunity to take their kids camping and to get out and to do the fire and the marshmallow on a stick and all that, but they just don't have time to do it, nor do they have the camping equipment. And that's one of the things that's just so simple to do it this way. But they want to do it. And we, the church, is making a way for them to be strong as a dad and lead their family, or as a mom or as a single mom, and do that. So it is just really a good home builder, and really a lot of great benefits in that area. And then, as I mentioned just a second ago, it is simple. It is just a simple ministry where we don't have to have a lot of complex stuff. When you send kids off to like in a teen camp or whatever, they got to have shots, and they got to have physical in some states, and they got to have sleeping bags and all sorts of things. This ministry, and Marilyn, you're asking how can it happen? You put it on the calendar and you say 3 weeks from Saturday we're going to go. And I'll just give you a sample how simple it would be. If you want to run one, I would suggest doing it about 6 hours. In other words, we'll meet at the church at like 10 on a Saturday, and we'll have them back by 4. That's a good way to kind of start it. So we're going to meet at the church at 10. And for the first 15 minutes, you make sure everybody's got a water bottle and bug spray, and make sure they've gone to the bathroom and everyone's registered. Then you load them up and you drive to like the next town over, and you go to something really simple. And one of the simplest things in the next town, and hopefully they're open where you guys live. I know you're in different states and different regulations right now, but just take the kids to the next town over and stop at the playground and say, we're going to stop at the playground here for a few minutes. I'm going to use the bathroom. Go ahead. And the kids will play. Now, this is something that we don't think of, because in youth ministry, we provide, and I'm talking about like teen ministry, it's like we got to provide a game. We got to do an activity. We got to have softball. We got to have frisbee. We got to have a big ball. We got to have a whatever. With elementary age kids, you know what? You turn them loose anywhere and they play. They play automatically because they're wired to do that. And when you take them to the next town and they get to play right there, or you take them and do something very simple, like walk up one of those observation towers to the top and everyone throws paper airplanes off the top. We did that once. It was so much fun. Just some simple things along that line. You are entertaining those kids. So you go do that. Now you've chewed up an hour and a half of your time. Then you're going to stop and eat somewhere. And I think I've got a picture here somewhere of stopping to eat. You don't have to eat where there's picnic tables. You don't have to eat where anything's fancy. You can just pull over, say, all right, we're gonna eat under that tree right there, under a shade tree. And everybody just sits on the ground. They pull out their little sack lunch that they brought, and we have them bring their own sack lunch for one of the meals, and then we cook hot dogs for the other that we provide. But they just sit there under the shade tree and eat, and everybody has a great time. We always eat in a park, sitting on the grass, something like that, and make it just real simple. We don't let them eat in the vehicles because we don't want to mess up the vehicles. We make them eat there. So now you've chewed up, about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Now you can go to some other event. You could maybe, hike to a lake, and you're all going to throw rocks in the lake, or you could, take them to a special museum. You could take them to a fish hatchery. You could take them to wherever. And on the way there, you can stop and do some cool things. One of the things, you would not believe how silly this is, but how much memory, okay, and we're creating memories for these kids and experiences. We stop on the side of the road, and you get out, and there's like a big culvert or like a bridge, and all the kids go under the culvert and come out the other side, and you play at the stream for a little bit, or they go sit under the bridge. Seriously, there's a railroad track here. And we have gone under there, and it's just like it's a road that goes under it. It's totally safe because the road goes under the railroad tracks. But the trains come, so you pull under there, and everyone gets out and like put your hands on the things and feel the power, and they can feel the power of the railroad track going. And then you say, you know what? That's a pretty interesting illustration there. Excuse me. How much power there is? Did you know there's power in prayer? Did you know that God promises to give us power? Okay, I mean, you can just do these teachable moments. It's really a cool thing. So then you go to a museum or whatever, then you stop at some other little place where there's some more bathrooms, and then you bring the kids home, and it's over. Okay, you've spent 6 hours with kids, and 7 hours, 8 hours, whatever, and they have had such a wonderful time, and they never forget it. And it's just, again, very simple way to kind of do that. You don't need sleeping bags. You don't need anything. They bring their own sack lunch. The only thing we do is we provide like a hot dog and marshmallow meal for them there. So very simple type of ministry. Let's see. I'm trying to check if we have any other questions. If you want to go ahead and start to write some questions in there, what we're doing. Let me go a little bit further here on what I've got. And all right, so we talk about definition, we talk about benefits. Let me talk about one of the last things here, and this is the idea of relationships. And this is something that we want to build in our ministry, is relational glue. It is what holds things together. People come to your church for events, but they stay because they have built relationships. I put something on the board here, and I'm gonna, I've never done this quite like this, so I'm gonna turn my camera right here and put this up a little bit, and I'm gonna stand up and show you something. And I don't know if you can read it very good. It's not the best in the world, but I want to point this out. I have 3 words written up here, three little short things. One of the things that we do, let me make sure this microphone's over here close enough. Okay, hopefully you can hear me. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Actually, let me just take this out. I hate it when we don't have good audio. And there we go. All right. One of the things that I have learned is to help my people really be defined so they know what they're doing. Your Sunday school teachers, your youth workers, all that, they need to know what the core goals are. And if they don't have, if you don't give them core values, they'll put their own in, okay? They'll put their own in the wrong ways, and sometimes, okay? They might think, teen group is supposed to be a social club or whatever, but there's some things that we want to have. And so I've got these written here, and I know you may not be able to read them real good, but I'll tell you what they are. These are 3 things that we put into every, let me get my hand over here so you can see the 3. There you go. We put these into every one of our teachers know about these. Every one of our programmatic people know these things. This is what needs to happen. And you need to have these and teach these. And they're very simple to remember, but to your people so that they know what kind of the overriding goal is in what they're doing. The first one up here at the top is the word information transfer. And we want every single every single thing that we do to have some level of Bible teaching and giving them some knowledge of the scriptures. Some of these are teachable moments. They are not necessarily like in a day camp specifically. It's not really, we don't have lengthy like, okay, stop, we're going to open your Bible and give them 45 minutes of teaching. Okay. We have teachable moments. We do, God made Wyoming and God made me. That was a big thing we did a couple of years ago. And we talked about all the really cool things that God made. So God made that mountain, and guess what? God made me. God made that, and God made me. God that made that little caterpillar, and God made me. And we kind of went through and continually emphasized the fact that we were created by God. And we had T-shirts that said, "I have been created." It was really a cool theme that we did that year. And we talked about that all throughout the thing, but it wasn't like a sit down and a 30-minute message on creation. We would do that the next Sunday though. And so we would be giving them that on the next Sunday. But we want to have everybody, every class, every teen thing, every kid thing needs to have some type of information transfer. Obviously, Sunday mornings, it's much more formal. Obviously, in a day camp, it's much more informal, but there needs to be information transfer. The second thing is relationship. There needs to be a place where relationship is built and that there is time for our people to get those relationships and to get those things, done where they get spend time together. That's why on the day camps, we spend time in the van and we spend time riding together. And on the way home, it's so cool. Everybody falls asleep on the way home. They all fall asleep. And we take pictures of them while they're sleeping. It's hilarious. And we show pictures of them later. It's just some great stuff. But everybody is tuckered out, and we got tuckered out together. We did things together. In fact, here, let me show you a couple of pictures. Here's these girls. We did a flower picking contest. So they picked flowers together. Look at this relationship here. Those are the girls that were reading the Bible with the young lady, if you remember that not too long ago. Here's a relationship, sort of this is Judy Raymond. They own the Raymond Ranch out there. They have like a 5-mile long driveway. I mean, they're way out in the middle of nowhere. And she's teaching a young guy how to ride a horse. I mean, there's a beautiful relationship going on there. We want to foster relationships and make time for relationships. And our Sunday morning services often are in such a position that we don't have really a lot of time for relationship building on a Sunday morning, because you get here at 9, you go to 10, and then you do this, and then you go to this, and then you go home, and then you get ready to come to another service. And sometimes you don't have time. The day camps, again, are a relationship event. It's one of the best benefits that we have is people become best friends riding in a van together. And we make sure that they don't have their phones out and they're not playing games. We used to just take them all away, phones, and now we just either let them keep them and they got to put them on vibrate and they can only take a call from their parents. But they, because we got some parents that are kind of want to make sure they talk to their kids at all time. But everything that you have, you want to make sure that there's information transfer going on and that there's relationship building is happening, and that you're getting those relationships developed and you take time for those relationships. And then the last one is a service outlet. And this is what we talked about already in the day camps, is this idea of letting people have a place where they can serve. Where, get this camera back here where it needs to be, where they get to serve, they get to do things, and they get to have output. And for little bitty kids, there needs to be something simple, and it's like like say picking up trash or doing something like that. But the idea here in this last one here that we talk about was the idea of relationship and doing things together and never forgetting. And I love the picture of the 3 girls on the hill here. 2 of the girls are from kind of a different economic strata. Their dads were professionals or whatever. The girl on the far left there, her dad was not a professional in any sense of the way, just a blue collar worker and just kind of a different side of town type of thing going on. But these girls hung out together in a day camp, and became best of friends. And it was so cool to watch that happen over the daytime there. The idea of people doing experiences together. And sometimes we create these experiences. In fact, here's the one I want to show you. This is Carbon County's oldest active outhouse. Now, why did I show this? Because we had an experience of seeing how many people we could stuff in an outhouse. Okay, sounds kind of crazy, but that's what we did. And we had a bunch of them in there, that's for sure. It was great. We actually had Girls Against Boys, and the girls won, and it was a great thing. But the relationship was there. We build those relationships, and they do experiences. They do stuff together. They climb a mountain together, throw rocks together. In some cases, they get cold and rained on together, you know. All of those type of things. We had a flat tire once, and they all got out and learned how to fix a flat tire. It was just an excellent, excellent thing. So going back there, it's that idea of having and developing relationships. We've got to make sure that we do that. So I'm running way long here on this thing. I'm going to give you time to give a couple more Q&As, and then we're going to, I'll tell you what we're going to do tomorrow. And then at the second one here, part 2 of this. So appreciate everyone hanging in here. I got a bunch of, I'm excited about you guys being involved with us here. Here's what we're going to cover tomorrow, okay? We're going to talk about staffing. We're going to talk about registration. We're going to hit finances. We're going to talk about transportation. We talked a little bit about that already. We talked about the meal thing. Very important how we do the meals. We do T-shirts for all our things. And then we're going to talk about how to do follow-up. And this is for some of you, this is the bread and butter. This is how you get folks in your church. And then I'm going to give you some secret ingredients, just a few secret ingredients there. So I want to go ahead and give you a chance to come up with some questions. Try not to have the questions that are having to do with that, or if they do, I'll touch on them, but we'll probably hit them tomorrow. But I see some questions coming in here. And so if you could do that. I appreciate you being on here. We always, like I say, always have our summer day camp little thing here at the end. The idea of keeping church young again. And let me take some time and answer some questions. A couple housekeeping things here. And let me see if we got some questions. Go ahead and ask any other questions that you have. Go ahead and type those in. They have to do with the relationship stuff, or parents, or how we get the parents involved and all that kind of stuff. If you didn't get this, that was the 3-step posting system. That is on reachkeep.com, just right at the top of the page. If you hit that, if you're coming in late, this was our posting system that we used to really kind of get all this going. All these day camp pictures that I have here, this specific one, in fact, minus the words there, we put that out on on our community sites, and we post those things out to those sites, and people know that we are the church for people with kids. And that's one of the most important things. Also, our next webinar is going to be on June 19th. And that is going to be, I'll give you more details about that. You'll get a mail in on it. But anyway, if you got some other questions, this is good. Let's see. All right. Let's see. I asked if you do. Okay. Tomorrow, can you, we got 2-part question here. How would you suggest a small church ministry with very little funding gets started? Okay, we covered that one. That was Maryland. And again, start small, put it on a calendar, get a date set. Just got to pick a date and go, you know what, we're going to do it on that date. And just kind of, it's the best way to kind of get things going. Let's see, Mike asked this one here. Tomorrow, can you talk about what you need to take into account if you have mostly non-Christian kids coming because the church is small? And yes, absolutely. We have unsaved, non-Christian kids all the time on this stuff. And we have an opportunity to be a witness to them, talk to them. We don't have a large gospel invitation type thing in this event. We follow up with it at church events. But yes, you will get kids from all over the community, and the kids will invite their friends. And that is our primary way of bringing people in here. So All right, if you got some other questions, go ahead and write those in. Let's see. I asked this because how do we expect this to translate these non-Christian? Okay, how do you get the non-Christian kids to come to church? Okay, let me just kind of answer the first part of that. Is kind of a two-parter. One of the things that we do, and this will be in kind of our secrets tomorrow, and I'll see if I can play a couple of them for you. But what we do is we take all sorts of photos of these kids. And when we take these photos, and this is part of the follow-up, we'll deal with this in more detail tomorrow, but we take the follow-up, we take the parents and go to the parents with the kids and say, hey, I got some great pictures of your kids. Can I come show them to you? It's like, come on in, Pastor. And we hand those pictures off to them. Sometimes we print them. Sometimes we have little projects kind of with them. And then sometimes we post them on Facebook for them or email them directly to them. And we build that relationship with the mom or dad. And then we say, we put together a montage of all the video, a video of all this stuff, and we would love to show it to you. We're showing it tomorrow at church at 11 o'clock. We'd love to have you be our guest. And that's how you get some of those moms and dads to come to church who've never been to church before, because we're going to do a demonstration. We're going to talk a little bit about the day camp. We do a report on the Sunday after of how the day camp went. And remember, I talked earlier about parents and how they were in, the whole church was involved in the day camps. When you let the whole church be involved, and when they see the report, you don't want to just do something like if you ran your VBS and had everybody praying for VBS and all that, and then the Sunday after you didn't have any kind of like report or pictures or photos, you're missing out. You need to take time to really kind of develop that kind of stuff. So all right, let's see. I understand in general terms, what are you thinking based on having an impact in this area? I think this is kind of sort of the same question, the idea of dealing with non-Christians coming to church and how you do that. We want them to come, and we have unsaved parents come all the time on our thing, which really kind of segues into, I believe, another question here. Okay, thanks. I'll see you tomorrow, 3. Okay, well, that's good. Yeah, whatever time zone you're in, tomorrow, this one's actually earlier tomorrow. It is at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Good question. 10 o'clock Mountain Time. Okay, and I know some of you guys are in different parts of the country here. Okay. Background checks. Let's talk a little bit about background checks for parents that are not members of your church. Okay, very, very good question. We'll talk a little bit about registration. Let me touch on it right now. We have a registration form for every kid, and we go through that and we make sure that they are, that we know if they have any, besides getting all their data, collecting that, we will make sure that if they have any allergies. Allergies to different things that we might run into, allergies to different food. Now, generally, people bring their own food. We do the one meal, and the kids pack their own meal. But if they're allergic to hot dogs or marshmallows or something, we want to know that ahead of time. That's why we register ahead of time. We also, on that form, we put a release for photographs, and people ask about this all the time. This is a big question. And I'll see if I can bring you, actually, I've got one right here that's got the verbiage on it. I'll make sure that we get that, and I'll read that to you tomorrow. The release for photographs, because if you're taking pictures of kids and you're putting them on, using them for promotional things, like all these kids on the fence, every kid that you see on the fence there. And let's see if I can zoom in close enough and see them. I can't quite see them all. I got a different monitor here. Yep, every single one of those kids. Okay, we had full releases for them to come on the day camps. Their parents, almost all the parents at one time or another of those kids that are in there came on the day camp, and we have releases to put their photographs in this, which is in this case promotional materials. Okay, so parents are seeing their kids in promotional materials because they signed and said that they could do it, and we can put their faces on the website and some of that, which then gets to the background check question. How do we do background questions? That's a good question. If you got, like say, if you got any others, we got time for a few more questions here. I'll go ahead and write those in. Background checks are done for all of our staff. In fact, I don't have mine on, but I almost always, while I'm doing a webinar, have my lanyard on, and I have a photograph on there. That means I've been approved, and I can be at different levels of the ministry. We have background checks for everybody that is 18 years and older in our ministry. You can't background check, at least in our state, you can't background check someone that is younger than 18. Okay, that's you can't do it that way. Those kids are actually their clients. They're kids in the ministry. They're not workers. So everybody though that is younger than 18 is under supervision. So every parent and every staff person that we have from our church, and we're a little bit bigger now, so we have some bona fide paid staff people, they've all been through background checks. Everybody that is a member of our church has basically been through a background check because we do so much children ministry. We just background check everybody. Parents that are not members of the church, we do not background check them because they are not running in 3 consecutive ministry functions. In other words, they're not doing something more than 3 times, and they're also under complete supervision. So they're never alone with anybody, okay, except for their own kids in their own car, which is their own family. So we don't have that problem there. Or if they have a neighbor kid comes with them, they have permission for that neighborhood kid has already got permission to ride with that family. And they've not served consecutively. If they serve more than 3 times consecutively and want to come on all the day camps, then we ask them, hey, we'd like to get a background check on you. But we don't do background checks because they are there as observers. We also run into this same thing in our Sunday school type things because we believe parents can come and sit in on a Sunday school class and watch. So how do you have a parent in there without a background check? Well, they're there as an observer. And if they were to come a 3rd time or after the 3rd time, we would require them to get a background check. So we don't do background checks on parents that are coming, but we obviously keep an eye on them. We make sure that we keep an eye on them there. So, all right. Any other questions? If you've got those, go ahead and put those in. I sure appreciate everybody bearing with me. And like I say, I've been drinking the water here a lot and a little bit tight in the throat, but appreciate